We last left off with me raiding the northern Barrens, but in the process of doing that, my star metal hammer has been damaged, so I need to repair it. Now, during Season 1, the last time I played Kalimdor Exiles, I remember finding tons of star metal on the Alcaz Island. Now, I just got there, as you see, and I see the exact same creatures as I do before, being the elite turtles. The gorilla creatures, I actually don't know what they're called, are also there, but I did not get far enough into the island to see if the Yeti or any of the other creatures are still there because, as you'll soon see, the area that I used to find the star metal is no longer there. There is no star metal, at least from what I could see. Now, I didn't go further into the island to check because I am not the proper level, nor am I geared properly to take on a bunch of these creatures at the same time. Taking on one, not too bad. Maybe two at a time, sure, but there are tons of them, including the Black Yeti, which is a world boss that I would definitely not be able to defeat at this moment. So I pretty much have to head home for right now. After dropping off all of the plentiful loot that I had acquired in the northern Barrens, I say, okay, it is time to finally start production on my fort. Now, if you had watched the previous episodes, I had made mention that I planned on making two bases. The main base, which is going to be mostly roleplay friendly, as well as my main operations, and then I planned on making a secondary base purely for the Purge, which the Purge is a system dedicated to destroying your base in order to raid you. It is a PvP raid on you versus you raiding the enemy. Now, I was going to build it in this little crevice behind my base, but then I realized it would be too close to my actual home, and it could get damaged in the process. So now I was on a mission to find a perfect location to build the fort. Now, I didn't want to go too far into the Barrens, I still wanted to stay nearby the crossroads, and eventually I do find a spot. It has the walled crevice of the rock-walled mountain, just like the other area where I built. So I had the idea of building walls that go up along the rock formations to build towers. Unfortunately, the way that it's shaped, it's not going to end up the way that I had imagined it, but it's okay. The shape of the fort itself will still take place. It just won't be up on top of the mountain as I envisioned it. But it's going to take a ton of resources. But first, before I go and spend all of my tier 3, what little I have, items to start building this fort, I begin the foundations with just generic stone. Sandstone only requires a small amount of resources. There is plenty of stone nearby, and for the area that I'm in, there's actually a decent amount of trees. So I start off with the sandstone, build the foundation, and eventually I will upgrade it to a Tier 3 building set, which I think I'm going to be making it the Black Ice set, as I feel that it fits the orcish aesthetic better than the others like Aquilonian or something, or Sumerian, or even the Pictish. They don't quite feel right, but the black metal, or black ice rather, looks really cool. Plus I could put the red rooftops on it from the Horde set that comes with this kit in the mod. Now, I've already got my followers making steel reinforcements, shaped wood, and the hardened bricks, so I will be able to make the tier 3 relatively soon. I just need black ice, which I do find relatively soon, though it will not be in this episode, it will be in the next episode that you'll see. But either way, as they're doing that, it will take a very long time to craft everything, as there is a time set for each item that is made. So in the meanwhile, while they are crafting all of that for me, I can go and continue my conquest of the Barrens. So it is now time to head to the southern Barrens, which this episode is going to be dedicated on. Now, there is still one more oasis area that I have not finished, which is the one just outside Wailing Caverns, but I will return to that momentarily. For now, I head past the bridge, and I head to the Quilboar area, at least one of them, the one on the eastern side near Tarajo, which has a bunch of Vanir. Vanir are kind of like the Vikings of Conan Exiles, and not only that, I find a tier 4 Thrall, which, if you don't remember from the previous episodes, Barrens, I explained that the tier 4 or named thralls are the strongest tiered thralls for whatever faction that they belong to, and Vanir are actually pretty endgame. While not the strongest, they are very strong. So of course I have to tame the one that I found, and I drag them back home and make them a follower of mine. Not only that, I can use the IQOL mod to make them look like an orc so it fits the aesthetic better, and now they can join my warband. Now, if you notice, I was also fighting at the same time while holding onto my thrall before I headed home, and during that encounter, my weapon had finally broken. But not to worry, I found an hardened steel sword off of one of the Vanir that I had killed. But what does this mean? Well, that means I'm going to have to use this hardened steel sword for the moment, as well as some other weapons that I can get my followers to craft for me. But now I really do have to find the star metal in order to fix that hammer, or just make a new star metal weapon altogether. But for now, because it is hardened steel, it'll be perfectly fine to go up against the Dogs of the Desert, which are of iron tier difficulty, to fight. So I rush on into the oasis where the Wailing Caverns is. Now the Wailing Caverns is a dungeon. I am not nearly strong enough to take on the Wailing Caverns just yet, but I can at least clear out all of the Dogs of the Desert on the outside, which they are supposed to represent the centaur of the Barrens, at least in terms of the, creatures that are around the oasis. And all of the camps that you can find for the centaur are there. It's just there's no centaur in Conan Exile, so you have the Dogs of the Desert and stuff. Anyway, I go to all the different tents, which in this oasis, there's a lot more tents than the other ones, a lot larger ones, and the larger tents have a ton more named thralls, being tier 4 thralls, which are highlighted with a yellow border around their health. So whenever you see the yellow border around their health, that's how you know that they are a tier 4, even if they don't have a name or explicitly say so. So I go around to all of the camps, the last one being the largest one and with the most amount of tier 4 creatures. It actually was pretty hard. I struggled and I almost lost a couple of my followers a few times, but eventually I did manage to defeat them, and I marked the oasis off on my map to signify that I am officially done with all of the camps in this area. From the oasis, I head back down to the southern Barrens, which, as you see in that ditch there, are some pretty big snakes. Now, I can take it on right now at my level, but I decide against it as it was spooky looking, and it turns out he's not the only one. I thought it was at first, but there are tons of snakes down in this gorge. So I decide to take the bridge and follow the road down south to the rest of the Kalimdor areas just outside of Taurajo. Now I'm on the western side of the Kalimdor area in the Barrens, the one where you do the quest to obtain the blood shards. Everybody knows that quest, the one where you have to kill 16 of this type, 16 of that type, the Geomancers, the Thorn Weavers, the Water Seekers. Yes, everybody remembers this quest and how terrible it was. And the entire area is also filled with Vanir, just like the other one, as well as the named thralls. Now this one I didn't tame unlike the other one, but don't worry, I do come back and eventually tame some more thralls in order to grow my warband. Now, before I head to Taurajo, I head just east of it, where there's a little camp. Now, this little camp is horde friendly. There are some trolls, a couple of orcs, not that bad. But just past that, there's an alliance camp. But it's different than the other alliance camps. This one has a flag outside of it, a flag similar to Arathi Basin, where depending on what faction you represent, Horde, Alliance, or the Brigand faction, you can claim this as your own, and by claiming it, you would be able to loot the chest within, as whoever is in control will be able to loot the chest. This is a very interesting idea and promotes a little bit of not only PvE, but also PvP if you were on a server with other players. This flag system is also implemented in non-instance open world Warsong Gulch area, which you won't be able to see for a while, but it does exist in this map. Warsong Gulch has all these camps throughout it. It's not quite the same as, the Warsong Gulch that we're used to. It's more like an Arathi Basin, but it's Warsong Gulch, and it's got all the flags that you can capture. Now, you cannot capture them until all the NPCs are dead, and then you will start to see the flag go down, with yours rising up as you see here. I wait for the Horde flag to rise for the Horde, and I go to claim my loot, which is some silver bars, which are good for making alchemic base, and some decaying Eldarium. I also see the Alliance soldier that I killed in order to make the flag go up, just completely floating in the air. Like, what the hell is even going on? I don't know, but I'm not gonna stick around long to find out, because now it is time to go to Camp Taraho, which unfortunately was not changed from the last time I played, and has almost no, actually it does not have any at all, Tauren in it. In fact, it's pretty much all populated by trolls and a couple of orcs. But don't worry, that doesn't mean there are no Tauren. There are Tauren on this map, just not in Taraho for some reason. But they are in Mulgore, and they're right outside of the Warsong Gulch area that I told you about. I take my time exploring Taraho. I love the fact that there's just imported models from World of Warcraft into Conan Exiles, and it looks great. Yeah, it's a little bit choppy here and there, like it doesn't mesh well, but it still looks really good. I find some loot in some chests around the area, and I look off into the distance at Mulgore. Now, don't worry, Mulgore is going to be the next episode, as well as another area that I'm pretty sure all of you have been dying to see. But for now, we need to continue south, as there's still a few more areas to conquest. But first, I take a pit stop to defeat a Thunder Lizard. The last time we fought a Thunder Lizard was in Durotar. They're really not that hard, even though they have the same model as a baby dragon. I would say they're roughly the same strength as a rhino. Speaking of rhinos, there are rhinos just south of where I am, and not only that, there are Tusk Beast, which all of them pretty much have the same level of difficulty, which is about steel to hardened steel, roughly, in order to, competently kill them. But what I also see is a King Rhino. King Rhinos are very strong, and they're pretty much world bosses, so I give him a wide berth and go around. But beyond that is the Silithid area. Now, the Silithid area is full of scorpions, which makes sense as the scorpion model in World of Warcraft is used for, lesser Silithids. Now, of course, there had to have been either a Scorpion King or a Scorpion Queen in this area, as it would be perfect for one. And sure enough, I find a Scorpion Queen. However, I am not equipped to take them on at this moment, as they are considered a world boss, and their poison is actually very deadly. It's used to make poisons for your weapons later on. But for now, I head on to the final Quilboar area, at least final outside of the Razor Friend Crawl and Razor Friend Downs areas, though those are not in the game just yet, at least not that I'm aware of. So we need to go in and take them on. Now, some of these camps have Vanir, just like the other Quilboar areas, but the majority of these final areas are full of clanless orcs, also known as the Brigands, which is the third faction you can choose to play as on this map. The clanless orcs are actually pretty strong. I actually die here, but I skip over it in the editing so you don't have to watch me run all the way back. But I do in fact die in one of these camps. And don't worry, I only died one time as opposed to the last time where I died multiple times, because this area is just compact with so many enemies and they're all very strong. But with risk comes reward. The loot that these guys drop, as well as the various chests in the areas, drop such good loot. Of course, I had to take all of it, from star metal to composite obsidian, perfected weapons, gold, hardened steel, everything you can think of. And of course, in the middle of the night while I'm raiding this camp, we get attacked by the Were Hyena once again. As I remind you, this is a multiple occurrence. This has been happening since I started Season 2. I just edit most of it out because it gets kind of boring when you see him every single night. And this was during the Halloween event. Eventually it will end, but all of these recordings for the next couple of episodes were recorded during the Halloween event, so you're going to see him for the next few episodes, but it will lead to a hilarious encounter in the next episode, so that'll probably be the last time you see him. Either way, I finish up in the Southern Barrens at least as much as I want to do, which is all of the Quillbore areas, the Alliance areas, as well as the dungeons I will do in a separate video. But this is where I find out that all of the markings that I had left behind for that system I told you about, where I wanted to put X's over areas that I had finished and castles over areas that I had not, well, it's not going to work because I have too many icons out. I didn't even know that there was a limit. So what I do now is that I take out all of the icons that I have finished and I leave the ones up for the areas that I still need to do. That way I am still reminded, hey, I have not done this area yet, and I can go back and finish it. But now, my conquest of the Southern Barrens, with the exception of the dungeons and the Alliance areas, are fully complete. Now, what do I do? Well, until I go to Mulgore and into the other zones like Ashen Vale and even Ajara, I need to still build my warband, build my arsenal. So, for the next few hours of gameplay, what I do is I go around to all these camps, like the Nordheimer camp you see there with the Vanir. I tame up a couple of those. I tame up a couple of clanless orcs. I go back to the Brimstone Cave, and I just continuously farm up material, tame thralls, and build up my base. After mass enslaving the Vanir and the clanless orcs in the Southern Barrens, I head to Ratchet. I need a break from combat, so I wanted to explore a little bit. Now, Ratchet I thought was completely the same from Season 1. I briefly visited it in the last episode in order to get some armor from a quest that you obtain in Durotar, but I didn't really fully explore the town to see if there was anything new. Turns out there is tons of new stuff from various shops, which you're not going to see here, you'll probably see later. But I find Khitan traders, which are the ones who take in the summoner skulls for cute rewards. I see the quest from before, but you cannot accept any quest here. That is just a turn-in. The start of it is in Durotar. But not only that, there is something else that I find in Ratchet, and that is a portal to Dalaran. Finally, I find a way to get to Dalaran, and up until now, I had no idea how to get up there naturally. I figured I was going to have to spawn myself up there with an admin command, but now I can finally go through the... Okay, yeah, and the portal crashed my game, not just once, but 2, maybe 3 times. So, yeah, looks like I'm going to have to turn on admin commands. That's what I do. The next time I log on, I turn on admin commands and I summon in a Pippi portal. Pippi is a mod within Conan Exiles that allows the admins of certain servers to, have the freedom to make this server into a fully fleshed out RP server. So what it does is you can make quests, you can make portals, you can do all these scripted events with it, and that is what I do to get around the crashing, because I had crashed several times over trying to do the normal portal. I spawn in a Pippi portal. So yes, I did have to turn on the admin commands for this, but I'm only doing it this one time because of the crashing of the natural portal within there. But it turns out it was just a me problem. The portal itself in the map works fine, because later on in another episode I use it and it works completely fine. But for now, I create the Pippi portal, and now I have to teleport myself to Dalaran. I make sure to not explore Dalaran. I go specifically to the portal area within the Horde area of Dalaran, and I spawn in the second portal and create the warp point. Now I head back to Ratchet, and it was time to test it, only for it to crash the game again. Yeah, so okay, I'm not going to be able to explore Dalaran this episode, but we will try again. I assure you, I do eventually make it to Dalaran. But for now, let's continue on with my journey. As you probably saw there that I picked up the cat, you can pick up cats that you find in the world, and they become your house pets. You have to put them in the taming pen the same way you would any other creature, but they pretty much tame up no problem, and you could set them down and they'll just wander around and do whatever you want. So I thought that was kind of cute that I have now a little house cat to keep me company, or at least keep my followers company while they work and I'm out exploring. Though this is going to be pretty much the end of the video now, as the rest of the play session are pretty much just chores around the base. From farming up metal to farming up brimstone to make steel. I make the steel reinforcements for the fort that I am making. a lot of the various people that I had just tamed, the thralls, I keep on standby, though one of them I do put down to join my warband, and I outfit him in wolf clothing. I use the star metal that I found in the Vanir area in the southern Barrens to finally repair my star metal hammer, so you will be seeing that next episode. But for now, that is going to be the end, and if you want to see more, I highly suggest you like this video, subscribe if you want to see the next episode where I'm finally going to explore Dalaran and Mulgore, as well as Thunderbluff. So until then, I will see you next time for the Horde.